Hello everyone, this is an in-depth guide on a 4-star character, Chongyun, the Popsicle Boy. We will be going over his roles, builds, party comps, dues, stones, artifact sets, and much more. If you haven't raised him yet, I will have the materials that is required by this Popsicle Boy on screen at the moment, right now.
少しは成長したようだ。
Okay, so talking about roles, you can build him as a main DPS, a support, or a burst quick swap, but mostly people build him as a support or a burst quick swap use. Okay, so main DPSing Chongyun is usually not a good idea because of its slow auto attacks and slow animations. Now, let's firstly go over his talents. Normal attack. It performs up to 4 consecutive strikes, having multipliers as shown. The elemental skill. Unused, Chongyun hits the ground, making a cryo explosion doing cryo damage and infusing all the characters inside this field that use sword, claymore, or polearm with cryo. This field has a cooldown of 15 seconds on a 10-second duration, whose infusion duration is 3 seconds. Now, Elemental Burst, the main part of Chongyun's kit. Unused, Chongyun will summon giant sword spirits, 3 of them to be exact, in the middle of the air, hitting one after the other after the shot delay. The C6 will give him 1 extra blade, further on that later. It has a very low energy cost of 40 and it has a cooldown of 12 seconds. And it has a fairly high amount of skill damage multipliers. Now going over his passives. Now, the first passive is the characters inside Chongyun's E will gain 8% at normal attack speed. Now, the second passive is mainly related again to his elemental skill. After his elemental skill's duration ends, another giant sword spirit or a spirit blade will be summoned, dealing 100% of Chongyun's layered frost skill damage as AoE cryo damage. And if any of the opponents are hit with this skill, their cryo resistance will be decreased by 10% for 8 seconds. Last one is just an exploration talent, not much important. Now then, since his talents are done, we'll go over his constellations. Now, to be brief, C2 and C6 are the important ones. C3 and C5 are just extra levels for your talents. C4 and C1 are a pretty it's a pretty meh kind of constellation. It's not that useful for Chongyun. Let's go over it one by one. C1. The last attack of Chongyun's normal attack combo releases 3 vertical ice plates that deals 50% of Chongyun's attack as cryo damage to all the opponents in its path. C2. This is important. So the elemental skill and elemental burst within the Chongyun's E will have their cooldowns reduced by 15%. This applies to all the characters, not only Chongyun. C3 gives his talents a +3 and same with the C5. C4 gives him an extra energy recharge And C6 is the main one. No. Chongyun's ult or Chongyun's elemental burst will have one extra additional blade. So what I mean is, if you don't have a C6, his elemental burst will have only 3 giant spirits. While if you have a C6, the skill will also summon one additional giant spirit. So now when you use your elemental burst, Chongyun will have 4 giant spirit blades to be specific, that and the 4th one will deal 15% more damage on a certain situation, which is written over here. Spirit blade cloud parting star deals 15% more damage to the opponents with a lower percent of their max HP remaining than Chongyun. I'm running him on 2-piece Glad and 2-piece Blizzard Strayer, but his best in slot will be 4-piece Emblem for a burst quick swap. You can also use 4-piece Noblesse if you don't have any Noblesse users in your team, or 4-piece Blizzard Set will also be a good option, but then its main value will come from if the opponent is affected by Cryo. But in Burst Quick Swap, the opponent is usually affected with Pyro, so that Chongyun will deal more damage. You can use 2-piece Noblesse with 2-piece Blizzard Strayer for the 15% Cryo damage bonus and 20% burst damage bonus, or 2-piece Noblesse with 2-piece Blizzard Strayer, or 2-piece of any of the above with any of the set that gives you 18% attack. Now, early game you can use the I don't think I have that, but I'll have it on screen. Berserker or Braveheart. Now for the stats, like usual, the attack percent on the Sands, cryo damage on the Goblet, and crit rate or crit damage depending upon your crit stats for the Circlet. Now, if you're using 4-piece Emblem, do not run an energy recharge, and because the damage will be much lesser, and since his burst only costs 40, it's not much useful for Chongyun, and his burst will be up relatively very quickly. So again, attack percent for the timepiece, doesn't matter which set you run, cry damage bonus, and crit rate or crit damage. Next, we will go over his weapons then. Now Chongyun surprisingly has a very large roster of weapons. For 3-star early game, you can use one second. Early game, you can use the Blood Tainted Greatsword or the Debate Club. It is not recommended that you level it up all the way to 90 and all, just for early game on. No. For the 4 stars, you can use Serpent Spine, the Battle Pass weapon, for balancing the crit stats, Akomaru for more burst damage, Sacrificial Greatsword with high refinements for under 100% uptime on its E skill, Rain Slasher for elemental mastery, Prototype Archaic for all the free-to-play people, Black Cliff for higher crit damage, and if you even have the Sea Lord leveled up lying here and there, you can run that as well. It's not that much of a bad option. It will work properly. Now, for the 5-star, you cannot go wrong with any of them except the Song of Broken Pines. Do not run Song of Broken Pines with Chongyun because it's a physical damage greatsword, not attack percent or crit rate or crit damage or anything. Some people mistake that since this sword, this greatsword, that is No Tune Star Silver, aesthetically fits Chongyun, it will work on him. But this and the Song of Broken Pines does not work on him because the physical damage bonus is completely lost, and is useless to Chongyun. Now then, once again, I'm gonna say this: no physical claymores like Snow Tombed or Song of Broken Pines. Now for the party comps, the first comp that is the strongest first star comp in the game, that is the national team. And if you don't have any of these characters raised, or maybe Xingqiu not raised, you can run a reverse melt with Rosaria.
Sooner we're done, the better.
Reverse melt with Rosaria, or a reverse melt with Kaya.
This will be interesting.
Both of them are fine. And if you don't have any of these characters, you can go for a monocryo team with Kaya being the main DPS, dealing cryo damage. Or if you haven't raised your Kaya and have an Ayaka for a monocryo,
I await your instruction.
that will also work, keeping in mind that you will use a Viridescent Shredder like Sucrose, Jean, or Sayu, or even Kazuha. Then some people run this comp that is...
What's our objective?
That is like, how do I say? It's called Todoroki from My Hero Academia. It's with the help of Chongyun, where Diluc does pyro and cryo damage both. And then Xingqiu with the benefit.
Chivalry will never die.
This comp will
You
work.
want me on your
too.
team?
Yeah, so I was saying this comp will also work. Now, there is one more comp that is non-meta, but early game you may use it. That is the Freeze Shatter comp.
For justice. We can do this!
Yes, so this will be the Freeze Shatter comp with Chongyun, Xingqiu, and Barbara. And the fourth slot being flexible for a shielder, or a buffer, or double cryo, etc.